called How Data Reuse Leads to Citation Impact, the mediating rule of coauthorship in ICPSR-based data coupling. This study has evolved since the initial draft, and today I'll be sharing the most current version of our analysis. Let's start with the big picture. We all believe in the ideas of open science, but what if the reason to share and reuse data are not only for the good of the scientific community, but also for the good of your own career? For years, people have talked about open science in terms of big goals like reproducibility, making public investment more accessible, and increasing innovation. These are powerful collective level benefits. But from an individual researcher's point of view, data reuse is also expected to bring some practical usefulness. First, reusing existing data set can save both time and resources. Second, research quality and performance. Using established data can make studies more rigorous, reproducible, and even more citable. And third, collaboration opportunities. Working with the same data might connect you with others doing similar work. But here's the critical gap. These individual benefits have largely been discussed as anticipated benefits rather than empirically demonstrated effects. We talk about them, we hope for them, but we haven't actually measured whether they have been after data reuse. So our primary objective is to examine the benefits that indirect latent ties through data reuse may translate into outcomes for individual researchers. So specifically, we focused on two key outcomes. First, citation performance. When two researchers independently work with the same data set, does that indirect connection lead to higher citations? Second, coauthorship information. Those working with the same data set make it more likely that two researchers form new direct collaboration. So in a sense, we believe that when researchers reuse data, especially when we use the same data, it can create new connections that enhance both collaboration and scholarly impact. To explore this idea, we need a way to evaluate measure that latent ties formed through data reuse. So we developed data coupling, a metric that captures the strengths of the latent tie between two researchers based on the data set they each cited across their publications. So put simply, it shows which data set two authors cite in common and how frequently they cite them. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine author A cite data set D2 twice, once in 2005 and once in 2006, and author B also cite the same data set D2 once in 2008. So for D2, the overlapping data set is counted using the minimum method. That is, it contributes that minimum of the two authors' citation frequencies. As a result, it increased their coupling score by 1, and the coupling year is 2009, the later of the two. And author A also cites the data set D3 twice, once in 2006 and once in 2009. And author B also cites the data set D3 in 2009. So these three, the shared link as 1, and the coupling year is 2009. So overall, the data coupling score between author A and author B is 2, one from D2 and one from D3. And their first coupling year is 2008. So by calculating this data coupling for every possible author pairs in a large data set, we can map out this data coupling network. So to test our impact of data coupling, we built a large data set combined from multiple sources. Here are the steps. First, we began with ICPSR administrative data, which tracks all ICPSR data set published between 1984 to 2021, and along with every paper that cited those data set up to 2021. So this provides initial pool of over 106K papers plus detailed metadata about each data set. So next, we narrowed it down to papers that could be identified by a DOI, about 44% of the total. So using these DOIs, we matched the papers in OpenAlex and SciSciNet to bring in rich author information like authors' publication histories and institutional information. So in the end, we focused on about 36K papers with DOI, matched DOI, and representing 15K unique authors. We then paired these authors to find cases where two researchers had cited at least one the same ICPSR dataset. So the result was dyadic dataset of over 3.9 million unique author pairs. So for each pair, we made some key variables, measured all dyad level. First, our main independent variable is data coupling strength. How strong the coupling between two authors is. So based on the ICPSR dataset, they both cite. We also recorded first coupling year. And our main dependent variable is citation performance. The dyad average citation impact across all of their papers. We normalize citation counts using the deflated citation score, which subtract the year-specific mean and divides by the year-specific standard deviation, and then computed its dyad mean DCS by averaging the two author values. We also tracked their coauthorship patterns, looking at whether they had worked together before or after their first data coupling. So most pairs, about 98%, never co-authored at all, and about 0.7% from the new co-authorships after their data coupling, and about 0.4% maintained existing co-authorship, and about 0.6% had co-authorships that later discontinued. We also included a few contextual factors. For example, we looked at triad closure. It is the number of mutual co-authors shared by the pair. Because this number was skewed, we used the log transformation. We also checked whether the two authors had ever shared an institution. About 8% of dyads did. And we also checked whether either author was dataset PI. About 2% of dyads were. And finally, we controlled for the average citation count of the data set they both cited. So to analyze these variables, we employed MR2AP regression model, which is designed for network data that accounts for the inherent dependencies between dyads. So let's move on to our hypothesis. We made the core hypothesis. First one is as author data coupling increases, the author pair's average citation performance will increase. So in the figure on the left, purple and green circles represent authors independently linked through data coupling. So we examine whether their average paper citation scores rise with stronger coupling. And H2, higher data coupling predicts more new co-authorship between previously co-authors pairs. So the figure on the right shows pairs from new coauthorship following data coupling. And ASIS-T stronger data coupling will increase citation performance through new coauthorship formation. So our third hypothesis looked at the mechanism behind this effect. We wanted to know whether the increase in citation performance is partly mediated by new coauthorship that emerge after coupling. And ASIC-A, the positive relationship between data coupling and average citation performance will weaken as the number of mutual co-authors increase. In the figure on the left, the purple and green circles are each linked to a yellow square, the mutual co-authors. So even though purple and green have been co-authors before together, they indirectly linked connect through a mutual co-author. And ASIC-B, the positive relationship between data coupling and new co-authorship. From a new co-authorship will weaken as the two authors share more mutual co-authors. So we found support for all our hypotheses. For H1, sharing one additional data set increases a dyadic citation score about 1.5% relative to the mean citation score. The effect is, although the numerical number looks small, the effect is sizable given the standardized score of DCS and the rarity of shared data set usage rule. And next for H2, we found that each 1 unit increase in the data coupling score increases the expected number of new co-authorship about 0.33 percentage point. And H3, and indeed, we found that data coupling indirectly increases citation performance by about 0.3% through new co-authorships. In other words, working with the same data set can spur new co-authorships, and those co-authorships can lead to higher citation impact. And ASIC-A, we found that each additional mutual co-author reduces the positive effects of data coupling on citation performance by about 0.1%. And H4B, each additional mutual co-author reduces the effects of data coupling on new collaboration by about half a percentage point. So these two mean that if two authors are already in tightly connected network, the data coupling benefits become smaller. So building on our result, we can identify several key takeaways. First, we introduced the concept of data coupling to show how latent ties formed through data reuse can lead to new co-authorship and higher citation effects. So it provides a quantitative way to measure these latent ties, making the invisible network of database relationships visible for the first time. And second, the effect is stronger for less connected researchers, suggesting that data reuse helps early career scholars grow their network and visibility. And third, our findings reaffirm the critical role of open science, open data infrastructure. So through this study, we saw that open data repositories like ICPSR function as active infrastructure that enable new scholarly connections. And finally, the research links open science ideas to everyday practice, showing that openness benefits both the community and individual researchers. So in doing so, it helps align personal incentives with open science values, closing the gap between ideas and practice. Of course, we have some limitations that virtual study address. First, our analysis was limited to data set in the ICPSR repository. Data coupling was measured only when two authors cite the same ICPSR dataset. So their connection based on dataset from other repositories were not captured. Consequently, the findings may not fully generalize to other repositories or disciplines. And second, we did not account for every possible confounding factor. So it's possible that other influences like shared mentors or conference participation may also play a role in shaping these effects. And third, as with any large-scale analysis, author identification may contain minor matching errors. Our data set was augmented by merging OpenAlex and SciSciNet data, but both of them sometimes include incorrectly reported author information. But because these errors are likely random, their overall impact on our analysis should be minimal. And first, our accuracy for measuring data coupling just identifies only when whether data we use occurred without capturing the depth or quality of that we use. But despite this limitation, our study can show that data use also benefits not only also benefits to individual researchers. So yeah, thank you.
Amazing, woohoo!